And I'm very happy this year to introduce you something new for our conference. We have had over these 3 days 2 external observers. You probably didn't notice that, but we have been carefully observed by these 2 people sitting here next to me. I'm introducing in a while, who will give us some feedback and impression from what has been discussed so intensively in these few days. And we'll propose a final statement for us to bring back home with us at the end of this very interesting journey. So our first external observer does not really need any presentation, but still. Sister Patricia Murray is a member of the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary from Ireland, and she has master's degrees in education and theology and a doctorate in practical theology. She has served as peace education officer and as president of the Irish Episcopal Commission for Justice and Peace, and she was the first director of the Loreto Schools Network in Ireland. More recently, Sister Pat served as the first executive director of Solidarity with South Sudan, a new model of intercongregational missionary presence. She was appointed executive secretary of the UISG in 2014. In 2020, Sister Pat received the Distinguished Service Award from the President of Ireland, and in 2022, she was given the Outstanding Leadership Award by the Leadership Conference of Women Religious. She was a voting member of the Synod of Synodality and was appointed as the first woman to the Commission on Writing the Synthesis Report by Pope Francis. She is a consultant of the Dicastery for Education and Culture. Thank you, Sister Pat.
Thank you.
And so, over to you.
Thank you for being here at the end of the day. And as we conclude the conference, Women of Faith, Women of Strength, as external observers, Brother Patrick and I want to draw together the fruits of these past days. Perhaps in a symbolic way, the 2 of us represent the mutuality that has been called for throughout this conference. After the welcome by Father Mark Lewis and the introduction by Father Hans Zollner, we listened to Simona Brambilla's opening speech, and she used 2 powerful images, one of weaving and the other of the baobab tree. And she used these to contemplate the lives of women of faith and women of strength. And we want to use these 2 images again. I will reflect on the threads that we have been weaving together, creating a strong and delicate fabric of mutual care, immense respect and tenderness. And then Patrick will examine the significance of the symbol of the baobab tree, its deep roots, great branches, its fruits and leaves, and how it relates to our reflections during these 3 days. What we have been weaving together during these past days, among many things, we have been weaving together are firstly women's stories, and then the issues that arose from these stories. And then, finally, the importance of building relationships. So I want to look at the stories we've been weaving, the issues that we've been weaving together, and then the relationships. So, weaving together stories. We heard stories of the women in Scripture, Elizabeth and Mary, Naomi and Ruth, Esther, Sarah, Judith, Rebecca, and many other women who were courageous weavers of prophecy, joy, and compassion. Their encounters oriented us towards a life that has yet to come to light, but was there alive waiting to be given birth. And in a certain sense in this conference, we too are in that place. We're hoping for the new to be born. We heard many other stories of Grace and Monica, where Monica was able to create space by listening intently and so could understand the lived experience of Grace. Or the simple life of Maya and Yvonne, whose encounters created respect, trust, and finally friendship in a war-torn country. The powerful testimony of Sister Nirmala raised up the abuse of women religious in India and the deafening silence in response to voices raised in protest. We remembered the Sisters of St. Catherine of Alexandria who were mistreated, brutalized, maltreated, and killed by Russian soldiers. As we listen to how many women in Ukraine suffer, where rape is used as a weapon of war, engendering fear and intimidation, their experiences spoke powerfully to us about the destructive forces of sexual violence, humiliation, and dehumanization. However, despite these experiences, the people can sing. They can kill our wishes and dreams, but never our will. The women can write poems. Where there is no tailwind, remember there is you. And your life depends solely on your own actions, on your own thoughts, views, and conversations. We remember this evening Alicia, Katerina, Ludmila, Victoria, Orsia, and the many others, named and unnamed, and the sisters who accompanied them. Their bravery is replicated in the stories of women and children who were trafficked and yet find hope and healing in situations of desperation. While acknowledging the enormity of the challenge posed by human trafficking, we rejoiced on hearing how Grace, Joy, and Maria, with the help of Talitha Cum volunteers, are some of those who escaped their entrapment. We remember also those migrant women who form 48% of all international migrants, who set out again with expectations only to be victims of trafficking, forced labor, unrealistic expectations, and who meet challenges related to language, prejudice, discrimination, and lack of access to many services. Each of these women is more than a statistic. She has a story, often carrying a shattered dream and broken promises. Who of us could not be moved by the stories of Shakti, Meera, and Asha, who through presence and sensitive listening moved from fear, shame, and guilt to healthy assertion, self-worth, and freedom. Empowerment is indeed a quiet, courageous process where prevailing beliefs are deconstructed and new narratives created. We are deeply grateful to Sarah for allowing her experience to be shared and for allowing us to be confronted by the horror of multiple sexual abuse within the church. We felt her wisdom, her compassion and strength, despite the ongoing effects of deep-seated shame and pain. Sister Regina allowed us to hear how she has had to confront sexual harassment by her parish priest in a context which created dependency, vulnerability, limited autonomy, and community division. The experiences of violence, sexual, spiritual, and emotional, endured by Mary, Martha, and Margaret, which led to feelings of powerlessness and self-condemnation, demonstrated how the misuse of sacramental power was used to seduce, manipulate, and as a mechanism for silencing them. However, weaving through these painful stories were examples of the gradual emergence of resilience, of rebirth, of restoration, and of slow healing. Yes, a garden can be planted in the midst of a war zone. Fight for life, she said. In the midst of death, choose life over all destruction. We heard how these many different women chose life, often in small steps, which they identified themselves through wise and sensitive accompaniment. So what steps must you and I take? Weaving together issues. From the first day of the conference, we have learnt how structural, cultural, and social dimensions affect women's lives deeply. The abuse of women is embedded in society's structures. We see how patriarchal systems are embedded in the family, the legal system, labor markets, the church, and the media. We heard how misogyny functions as a mechanism to punish women who challenge patriarchal norms, and how objectification and the pornification of culture reduces women to body parts and sexualizes their representation. The impact and effect of patriarchal systems in church and society were clearly seen in the complex social and cultural fabric of life in India. However, other voices, and the posters too, reminded us that this phenomena is repeated worldwide in many different parts of the world. There, we saw how deeply ingrained patriarchal systems are embodied in religious, social, and political systems. The status of women is lower than that of men. It is difficult to rebel and to speak truth to power, to challenge ingrained expectations. Gender-based violence is often accepted at many different levels, and women are blamed for not resisting perpetrator. Fear prevails, fear of being punished and victimized, or of being re-victimized. This creates a culture of silence, what was described several times as a deafening silence. The glory of masculinity linked to domination and the promotion of the manosphere are part of a backlash against the empowerment of women and the increased focus on women's rights. When hearing about the lives of women, it is clear that many cultural norms and cultural messages contribute to blaming and shaming women who are victims of violence or sexual abuse. They are expected to remain silent, to endure, and to sacrifice themselves for the good of the family's reputation or the protection of the church. There is often indeed a deafening silence at the level of the family or of the church or society at large. In many cultures, women who are raped or sexually assaulted are seen as defiled, worthless, insignificant, nothing, as non-persons. We saw that reshaping culture is fundamental. Changing the narrative is a task for all of us. Wars and conflict, migration and human trafficking were seen during these days to be closely interlinked. They promote fear and vulnerability, which leave a person open to the exploitative mechanisms of traffickers for the purpose of sexual exploitation, harvesting of organs, forced labor, and other brutal practices. We need to examine the root causes, poverty and corruption are some, and to advocate for systemic change. Weaving together relationship. Since we've met, we have been weaving relationships. We have seen the thoughtful and challenging posters which emerged from relationships developed in many different countries. We have reminded each other that the creation of relationships of respect and mutuality are essential for healing and transformation. The presenters spoke to us about the importance of deep, respectful presence and listening, of the need to understand power differentials and power dynamics, of appreciating the slow process of healing and restoration. Accompaniment needs skills training, listening without judgment, profound humility, sensitivity to trauma, and above all, allowing survivors to speak for themselves and in their own time. We heard of the power of networking and collaboration, of survivor circles, of honest conversations, of truth-telling, and of respectful attention to the appropriate use of language to avoid triggers that could cause further harm, especially religious language. The importance of honoring emotions, especially anger and rage, were highlighted. We learned how emotional healing can be helped through cultural awareness by challenging accepted norms and behaviors that perpetuate unequal relationships between women and men. Where this situation prevails, the domination and exploitation of women will continue. Let us remember that violence is a prison that prevents human growth and flourishing. Finally, relations need to be woven with those in leadership roles, especially bishops, so that honest conversations can be held in non-threatening contexts and where they can be helped own their responsibility and accountability. In the context of the Church, whenever spirituality or a false mysticism is used for sexual exploitation, this is an enormous deception and betrayal of trust. The culture of suspicion with regard to women needs to be challenged and changed. Putting women's experience at the center of theological reflection is essential if this is to occur. So I ask, can we take the necessary risks to speak out so that we can make space for the new, whether these are new structures, new ways of dealing with grievances, new processes of dialogue, demonstrating that as part of the people of God, we are obliged to break the silence on behalf of our sisters and indeed our brothers who are abused, exploited, or dehumanized in any way. We have been called to stand up and say, you are not forgotten, you are loved. Can we see each woman, each person, not as a victim, but as a person of resilience, dignity, and hope? Can we each embrace this ministry of presence, compassion, and transformation? Can we live justice as love in action, defending dignity, advocating for change, and promoting healing? And so let us rise together, women and men together, moving from a deafening silence to raising a courageous collective voice, demanding change so that all of us may live life to the full. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Pat, for your inspiring reflections. And now, let me introduce you, Brother Patrick Nuanah from Ghana, religious brother of the Edmund Rice Christian Brothers. He got his training as a teacher for basic education. He later got his first degree in environmental science at Nuanah University in New York. He is both an environment and human rights advocate. Other working experiences for Patrick involve teaching and accompanying young brothers in initial formation in Zambia and Ghana. He is a Laudato Si animator, and he is also a member of the Safeguarding Committee of the Archdiocese of Tamale in Ghana, and a co-coordinator for blended learning course from the IADC in Safeguarding Tamale. And above all, Patrick has just graduated from the IADC licentiate degree in safeguarding. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. So our next thing is to look at the powerful image of this baobab tree, majestic as it is, and to learn, take the wisdom from it in regard to our experience here for the last 3 days. So this tree represents, first of all, sacredness. By its size and awesome look, there is something about it. When you look at it, it almost looks like the incomprehensible God that we worship, we connect to. There is one saying that if you want to embrace it as a person, it is difficult. No one person can embrace it. You need many hands, different hands, to be able to embrace it. So what it means is that even in terms of learning from each other, which is, we call it the collective wisdom. So there's not one person who knows all, but we need to all come together in order to share our wisdom together. So the value of collective wisdom. There is another picture. Look at how unusual it is. And so some people call this the unusual tree because they say it is planted upside down. The branches kind of look like the roots, if you look at it, somehow. So there is something about it. So what does the upside-down root system symbolize? The reversal of nature or the cause of things. What does it tell us? As we have been together here, the unusualness of this image clearly speaks to the conference that things cannot remain usual for us. This system, the culture and norms and our way of relating needs to change. It also talks about community. First of all, I think I left one thing about, it's called the tree of life. So it is where community come together to share everything, almost everything. It provides a natural place for communal events and ceremonies, even sometimes conflicts, and to support, to offer support and healing. It builds bridges. It includes everyone and empower all, and does not leave anyone, even the youth. You can see, telling stories. It provides a space where all can freely share their stories and be heard. And people are there to listen. Because for some reasons, when you are around it it conjures a peaceful atmosphere and disarms every thought that you would have had that is not for the good of the community. So it is where people listen to each other, and as we heard, it's not a deafening silence that you see there. People really listen, and they listen to each other. So silent listening, a sign of respect and reverence for survivors and their stories. They listen attentively. So here we've heard several times, shine our eyes, our ears, and our hearts, so that we may see, hear, and act. This is a quote that I was invisible until someone saw me, as Sister Veronica said. So is there people come, those who are not seen, when they come to this, they are seen, and they are listened to and cared for. The uses of this tree is uncountable. I read somewhere, it said it's over 300 uses. You can use this tree, for many things. So shelter is there. It provides shelter for many, things, animals, even human beings. If it is raining and you are in the bush, you can easily get a shelter there. The fruits are used for many things. It can be used for porridge, for alcoholic beverages, so many things. The leaves are used for food as well. They are used as vegetables and stew. You can make a stew with it. Even when animals come, they also find that. So it's uncountable. So, with the deep questions, and we're again inspired by the root system of this tree. The tap roof are characterized by the tap roof and its extensive lateral roots have a lot to tell us. One is that the depth of this root is almost more than 15 meters. And what it does is that it is to support the whole tree and then to get the source of water even to the deepest part of the soil. The lateral roots spread outwards and wide to support also the tree's large canopy and to help absorb water during the rainy season. In this root system, there is distribution of labor, co-dependence, and co-responsibility. These roots have large system of networking beneath the surface, unseen by us who live under its shelter and depend on its fruit. So it tells us a lot that even what is unseen, our root system, our system, has to be done behind, closed doors, behind, the scene of many things. But the fruits are the ones that are seen by many, and which is what is happening. So what does this say to us or confirm to us? We have shared and listened together collectively about collaboration, mutuality, networking, empowering, and leaving no one behind, even those that we seek to protect, children and everyone. In safeguarding, we can no longer say us versus them, or they are the vulnerable and we are invulnerable. Also, if the structure and the root system and other parts of this tree are not well aligned to the mission and purpose of the baobab tree, it will collapse or produce something else, maybe bitterness, hate, violence, etc., and will be unable to benefit anyone. But the image of the bulbous roots turned upside down, and the whole unusualness of it also invite us that we cannot continue the usual way in all these issues and difficulties we are witnessing in the area of abuse and care. So the question is, what structure, systems, and mindsets need changing, and how do we go about it? How would a theology of inclusion and empowerment and of trauma-informed care look like? Where do we go with our collective wisdom from here? Who needs to hear it? I'll end with the hopes and transformation that we have witnessed together. What are these hopes and transformation that we have already witnessed together? That we share the same space, we share the same peace, which is unarmed and yet disarming, that Sister Simona talked about. That we are emerging with this conference ever stronger and ever faithful to our call for the dignity of all humanity. That we won't be our own enemies, that safeguarding is first has to do with me, to start with me, and with the people I live with in the community, in family, workplaces, and all within my path. That we would proactively educate and learn ways to disarm the deafening silence to the abuse crisis in all its forms in the church as well as in the global stage. That we would continue to increase our listening capacity to survivors and all who are hurting for lack of voice and to redress their trauma. That survivors are standing up, gaining freedom and autonomy. That young people are gradually coming alive because they are slowly gaining voice, at least in some areas. And lastly, above all, that we are choosing life in all our decisions. We are the people, and the time is now. First of all, we choose life, then we shine our eyes and ears and hearts so that we can see, we can hear, and we can act.
In the light of the experience of women, we feel called to build collaborative relationships where women and men together, sharing their collective wisdom, confront unjust structures and create space for all to speak their truth openly and to be heard.
To build networks of compassion that can provide skilled accompaniment and empower advocacy with and for those who endure violence.
To provide education, formation, and training in schools, seminaries, and formation houses in order to foster a new mentality that would bring about cultural change by understanding and challenging power dynamics.
To work to change systems and structures by putting people at the center, equipping them and relying on them so that progress is made possible over time.
To take the initiative to propose new models to the institutional church in relation to dealing with abuse of any kind in a timely and respectful way, involving the survivors and drawing on the necessary expertise.
And lastly, to develop a theology of inclusion, empowerment, and trauma-informed care, drawing on the experiences and the expertise of survivors.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.